Hi everyone. I am going to just run through some tips for creating the eerie and bizarre. Just a little bit about myself. My name is David Ferreira, and I am an illustrator, a painter. I do everything from comics to painting to storyboard work, um, all kinds of stuff. So, um, my friend Sean had asked me to take you guys through some of my ideas about creating imagery that was spooky, engaging, in that sort of eerie way. I don't see myself necessarily as somebody who specializes in just the creepy and eerie, but I do have some ideas for you. So we'll go through them here. So this image I created a few years back, and the idea was cryptic, to be sort of puzzling. And so I thought of this idea of this like kind of beginning of some kind of creature and world. But again, I didn't. I like to leave things to the viewer. I wanted the viewer to kind of come up with their own story here. So, um, and part of what I did here was I used reference for real things to make it feel engaging. So I applied some perspective to some of these blocks, and then up in here, there's I used reference of some sea creatures and some tentacles, and even in here you see these little eyes. These are lotus pods. So I'm going to point out some of these things. Involve the viewer, very important. Show, don't tell. So you're making an image. You're not you're not telling somebody a story. The viewer is involved here. They have some say in what's happening. They have some thought process into what's happening. Um, don't go too far. You want to bring them to the edge, but sort of let them make their own decisions about what's happening. It's boring if somebody does all the work for you. So large oil painting. Um, it's like any horror movie or anything sort of dramatic. As soon as you see the creature, it's a little less interesting, right? So I like to have some obscurity there. I like aquatic themes. I put octopi in my work. I find, and I have this in here somewhere. When you're dealing with something dramatic, whether it's even something that's bordering on violence or something very traumatic, it's better. The moment before something and the moment after are much more interesting than the moment of. Showing you a bunch of wrecked cars here would be sort of exploitation. It would just be like you'd want to see it. It's like exactly like a car accident. You'd want to see it because your brain can't help but look, right? But I'm trying to give you the moment before, the moment after something. This is called distracted, and in there there's little you can see little lights from like cell phones. So also to give you an idea of what I would do for reference, this piece is actually still in progress. I'm still working on this painting, but so you can see it, I'd say this is probably 18 by 24 in size, acrylic paint. This one here is oil paint. I work in oils and acrylics, but other things too. So for reference, it's the kind of thing I do. Bunch of Matchbox cars, paper bag, some little clamp book lights. You can do a lot with things you have around your house when you're looking for information. Um, you know, you got to think outside the box. Again, there's stories to tell. Just got to leave some things to the viewer. This piece, in my mind, is about nature and man's effects on nature. So involve the viewer. You're creating with the viewer in mind, not in a vacuum, not all by yourself, right? You got to think. I'm sending this thing out there. Once it goes out in the world, it belongs to everybody. Okay. Um, Give the viewer some credit as a participant. Lead them there. Let them do the rest. Set the stage. Um, Set the stage and control the story. Props, placement of forms, and light are great tools. Use them. Low light and tertiary color, that would be like grays, um, remind us of the night. We're all vulnerable in the dark. So there's some ideas about trying to get people involved. Set the stage, and it's exactly like that. Think of it as a stage you're creating. You're looking into this world. You're creating an image. Think of it as a stage. This piece, this is actually my daughter in here, and this tunnel is in a park here in Connecticut where I live. It's similar to this. It's not exactly like this, but this tunnel is in a park. In the park itself, I wouldn't say the park is creepy in nature, but it has parts of it that are a little bit. And the park itself is called Devil's Hop Yard, which I think is really interesting, mainly because of a waterfall there, where there's a bunch of craters and it looks like maybe some giant creature hopped around in there. But the moment before, the moment after, create a sense of presence. This is a low light piece too. It's very gray. I imagine this is like it's sort of in a cave, right, or a tunnel, and then it's sort of also at that time of day, right when it's about to get dark. Dusk. This piece is a little brighter on screen than the actual painting. The actual painting is a little hard to get a handle of, but there's a lot of implication here of something maybe bad's going to happen, maybe good. I don't know. This was a painting I actually did for a friend. Just there's some side story here. Another artist friend of mine who has this connection with rabbits, and so I did this sort of thinking about him. And I just, again, setting the stage. Everything in here tells a little bit about the story. The bike, the lighting, this sort of old wall back here, the vines on the trees. There's not a lot of life in here that isn't a little bit creepy. There's a little vine coming up the tree here, but everything here is meant to give you a sense of a little bit of a sense of apprehension. Maybe not beware, but sort of just being a little cautious. Most of the pieces here have been acrylic and oil, but this is a watercolor piece with some text that was a poster. So this one is literally supposed to look like a stage. So, and there's some. I thought I was thinking of theater light. So I pushed these dwarfs back into the space back here. And then you've got this sort of Shakespearean figure here. Suspend the viewer. Sprinkle the lies that you're telling somebody with truth. Truth is a detail. Truth is detail. It's mobility. It's how something moves. It's how light hits something. It's texture. It's lots of things. If you're trying to sell somebody an idea, especially if it's something that is in this world of fantasy or fiction, which if you're dealing with illustration or anything like that, that's what you're doing. So you have to make the viewer buy it, and that means that you have to sprinkle the lies, which are the images you're telling somebody, with enough truth so that they believe it. A good example is, if you were out late one night and you weren't supposed to be. You got home past dinner and your mom says, "Oh, where were you?" And you say, "Oh, Mom, I'm sorry, but I got attacked by a werewolf on the way over here. And yeah, it was really rough. And, he captured us and made us eat Cheerios in the woods for 45 minutes, and that's why I'm late." Obviously, that's not a very good lie, right? Because there's not really any truth in it. Other than that werewolves are a thing and Cheerios are a thing. But if you said, "Oh, Mom, I'm so sorry. my I got caught up talking to a friend, and I totally lost track of time. That's much more believable, right? So if you're trying to get somebody involved with your image, it has to have some things that people connect with. It has to have characters. There has to be some truth in there. So that's really important for any kind of eerie image and just any kind of fantastic image. Very important. This was a series of paintings I did a while back that were basically just for fun. I started with this one, which was a demonstration I did for a class on an acrylic painting technique. And it kind of was a reference to, I used to like the Dracula in the old Warner Brothers Bugs Bunny cartoons. There was this whole thing with Dracula and Bugs Bunny. You guys can look it up, if you want to see what I'm talking about. But this was sort of in the back of my head. So this is sort of cartoony Dracula with this light across his eyes. And then I had these really cool old frames that I wanted to put them in. So sometimes I'd make something for a frame I had, and that's kind of what the case was here. So I started this, and it became this sort of monster series. I did one, and then a friend and I had a bunch of monstery stuff, and we ended up kind of doing a few shows of monster work, which was, actually did pretty well. We took it to a state school out in Maryland, and we did some shows in Salem, Massachusetts, and it was a fun thing. And I like monsters, and I love Universal Pictures, those old horror movies, some of my favorite stuff, Bela Lugosi, all that kind of stuff, right? So if you don't get a chance to watch some of those old horror movies, do that if you get a chance, because it's really fun. Lon Chaney's Wolfman, that was always in the back of my head. Again, this is an acrylic painting. Too bad I don't have the frame on this one. It's sort of like a rustic, almost like a barn door type frame. Thin paint. Mostly I work in kind of thin layers of acrylic. It's sort of I work in a very, I do an underpainting of a single color, and then I work in very thin layers. Sometimes you can still, these were on wood, so you can still see some of the texture in the drawing. Sometimes I'll work really smooth. We've got the creature from the Black Lagoon. We've got the Bride of Frankenstein here. Elsa Lanchester was a really great image, so I grabbed that from Bride of Frankenstein. And these aren't like from stills. I took a bunch of reference, like a bunch of pictures, and then I sort of make my own drawing of it. So it's not from one source, it's from multiple sources, and that's kind of how you make something your own. Sort of a play on Bela Lugosi, Boris Karloff's Frankenstein. But not exactly. There's some of my own stuff in there. So that's sort of lazy eyes a little bit. Motivated perspective is very important. So think about using perspective that's motivated by the needs of the story or the narrative. If you want to make somebody feel scared, how do you show that? Do you show it from above or below? Are we far away from something, or are we close to it? Those are things that are really important. You can make people feel how you want them to feel by showing something from where you want them to see it. So if you put something, if you put your figure far away and way over in a corner, they're going to feel isolated, and it's going to maybe give you a feeling of fear for them. Or if you're looking up at something that's very big and scary, like if that's another motivated perspective. If we have the perspective tilted up and we're looking at a monster of some kind, all of a sudden that monster's above us, right? So that's some other things you can do to control this narrative, control the story. What's the point of view that will help the viewer feel the way I want them to feel? That's really important. You can control. You're the one in control of your image. Place the viewer where you want them to be to make them feel a certain way. You want them to feel like they're a mouse on the ground? You can do that. You want them to feel like they're a bird in the sky? You can do that. This is what I was talking about earlier. Exploitation is weak storytelling. So exploitation would be like gratuitous, um, violence, anything that is like there for shock value. Okay, um, that is in risky situations too. Just avoid gratuity. I mean, I like certain things that are sort of like, I like some gore in a horror movie, things like that. But sometimes it can weaken the story. And in single images, it does tend to weaken. It tends to just because you're stuck on that image. It's not a moment. It's there. You're studying it. So um, again, the moment before and the moment after something is going to happen are always better. Okay. If you ever get a chance, look at Edward Gorey's Ghastly Crumb Tinies. It's this sort of series of illustrations that's all these like little kids getting killed, but it's like tongue in cheek, and it's like the moment before and the moment after. So there's this like grim part, but it's not overly, it's not inappropriate. There's a little bit of a funniness to it. Death can be handled in a way, it's part of life, right? So it can be handled in a way that's kind of entertaining, right? The mind is a powerful tool. Let the viewer's imagination fill in the blanks. The moment prior and the moment after something is something traumatic are almost always better. Almost always better. This would be motivated perspective, right? This is I did this for a series called States of Terror. That's a bat squatch, that guy's called. And in this story, he was trapped in a shack. So I connected with him, and he was escaping. He was sort of a big, gentle creature, really. He was escaping people that were holding him. So this is pen and ink, and some digital for the softness in the sky there, but mostly pen and ink. The Loveland Frog, very motivated perspective, down on the ground, almost like we're seeing it. I wanted it to look like he's about to get hit by a car, so there's like this light. It's a little blown out, like there's lights from a car. He's wearing those shorts because they were sort of like a clan down in the south somewhere of like these creatures. So I thought maybe they'd find stuff and like wear it. Loveland Frog. Just another image to kind of land on here. Just this is a drawing I did a long time ago. It was sort of just it was a dumpster I used to see all the time near a place where I worked, and I thought, oh, what a big spider coming out of there would be cool. Pen and ink drawing of a werewolf shapeshifter kind of thing in mid progress. So the little key of the eye coming out here I thought was creepy. And the environment. It was important to set the mood with the environment. I'm going to wrap it up. I wanted to keep this about 20 minutes. That's about where we were. Most of these images can be seen on my website, davidwferreira.com. I will also send along some images in case we need them, but hopefully there was something in here that you connected with and was interesting to you. And that's all I've got for you. Thank you for your time.